Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Manifest Wellness Podcast. I am Leema Pasha, an executive wellness coach. I help women leaders stop stress and beat burnout. I am the executive wellness coach to call when you want to go from drained to reclaimed. I'm so excited today to bring you Dr. Janelle Green. She is going to talk about plant-based protein, fiber, and we are going to discuss stress. This is such an inspiring topic today because we are getting ready for the holidays and we want to give you hope and joy during this season for new things that can inspire you to generate change and growth. This podcast is designed to help you support your wellness and build community. Dr. Green, welcome.
Thank
And please
you.
introduce yourself.
Yes, I am Dr. Janelle Green, podiatrist and whole foods plant-based nutrition coach. And I work with my clients in my practice and outside of my practice to prevent amputation and limb loss, which is extremely high, unfortunately, within the diabetic community. So if you are type 2 diabetic and you want to preserve your feet, then I'm going to be your doctor to go to.
That's so inspiring. Dr. Green is a foot doctor and foot surgeon, and I was inspired by what she's doing with helping patients with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. One of the changes that can be expressed is plant-based nutrition to support patients with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. And Dr. Green can tell you a little bit more about that. I know when people decide to change their diet, it's a big deal and they want to know, how can I get my protein? How can I enjoy the holiday season and the traditions that I've grown to love? How can I manage change when I'm so stressed out? I don't know what to do. So, I want to ask you, Dr. Green, what are some tips on how people can get their nutrition and still have a great, healthy diet if they're interested in transitioning to a plant based diet?
Yeah, well, you touched on a few things, and I'm like, I had to write them down because I'm like, I want to want to comment on everything you said. Getting your protein. So one of the things you're gonna get it. That is key. The important thing to remember or to understand is that 97% of Americans consume too much animal protein. We in this country do not have any deficiency, any documented deficiency of protein. People always want to know, how do I get it? Well, 97% of us consume way more than the recommended intake, and that's through the consumption of animal protein. So I know sometimes people, that are working out, they want to know, how can I get my protein? They might consume an extra protein powder or protein shake. In those cases, when you're trying to build muscle, because proteins, there's a thing called amino acids. I don't want to get too sciencey on you, but these amino acids are like the building blocks of protein. So if you think of, I don't know, like Legos or just the basic ABC blocks, they are made up of these different little things called amino acids. You stack them all together and then you get your protein. Okay. And there's different types of protein. And I'll go into talking about the animal protein and then there's plant protein, but just the overall idea is, in terms of how you're going to get it, it's important to understand that we are not at a deficit as Americans of getting protein, and majority of us get to consume too much animal protein.
Great. I wanted to know what is the difference between plant and animal protein?
Right. So animal protein is high in saturated fat. Animal protein consumption has also been linked to cancers. There's something in animal protein, we'll just call it a TMAO. So there's this product in animal protein that's been known to contribute to development of certain cancers, prostate cancer, colon cancer. So consumption of animal protein what someone should understand, and those are people who are and are not interested in having a whole foods plant-based diet, is that when you consume animal protein, you increase your risk of cancers, heart disease. TMAOs are linked to heart disease or atherosclerotic or the plaques building up in your blood vessels. All those things are associated with the consumption of animal protein. So while you are getting the building blocks necessary to sustain a healthy life through consuming animal products, you are also getting a lot of saturated fat. You're also getting a lot of cancer-causing agents, and those are not necessary. Plant protein, on the other hand, does not contain those things that cause cancer, does not contain those things that contribute to blood vessel disease or plaques building up in your blood vessels and heart disease. And in fact, plant protein has an abundance of fiber, phytochemicals, and antioxidants that combat the cancers, that combat the heart disease. So those are very important. And another thing, because I work with a lot of people that have type 2 diabetes, chronic kidney disease affects a lot of people that have type 2 diabetes. And basically what it means is your kidneys stop working to filter out your body of impurities. When that happens, a lot of times people will have a lot of high protein in their urine. So those are the first signs. Someone who is at risk or who has type 2 diabetes of developing chronic kidney disease, someone who's at risk of developing chronic kidney disease should really heed to abstaining from animal proteins, because these are the things that will worsen your likelihood of developing kidney disease, diabetes, all these complications that will eventually lead to, or can eventually lead to, you being on dialysis. So plant protein overall is better because of the fiber that it contains, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients. It has a ton of benefits that are, like I said, anti-cancer, anti-heart disease. And so you can have all the protein that you need with a plant-based diet.
That's great. So, with the holidays coming up, can you give us an example of a healthy holiday dinner on a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so a healthy holiday dinner. So there's I try to pull up a pyramid that you can look at to show you what is the pyramid of a whole foods plant-based diet. So someone who's wants to consume your protein, legumes, your beans and peas and lentils, nuts. Walnuts are high in omega-3s as well. You want to have grains, you want to have fruit, you want to have your green leafy vegetables. And one of the things I'll have to say that I kind of love about a whole foods plant-based diet, and that is, at least I think, and you can comment on this, that's easy to understand and follow, is that if it grows out of a tree or comes out of the ground, you can combine these things to make up something that you like and that is healthy for you. Because these are also going to be things that are minimally processed. They're going to be things in their whole food forms. So a healthy plant-based dinner, or a healthy plant-based vegan dinner, would be something that is predominantly composed of food products in their whole food form. So you can still have a lot of processed vegan food, which I don't recommend. But if you want to have a bean patty, or making beans in certain kind of ways, and I don't really give a lot of food advice and food recipes rather, but consumption of greens. I know there are some people that will make a cabbage and use that in place of, you cut the cabbage in place of your turkey. So consumption of a lot of beans and grains, fruits and vegetables are going to be what a healthy Thanksgiving dinner might look like. And there are different ways you can do that. Some people will, they'll make their cheeses homemade out of like soaked cashews and mix different seasonings, nutritional yeast, and different things in order to make like a pasta or kind of a cheesy type sauce, because the nutritional yeast has that cheesy type flavor to it.
That's great. Yes, people all over the world have been consuming plant-based diets for decades, and we've
Mm-hmm.
just become accustomed to the standard American diet. So there are lots of healthy cookbooks out there related to plant-based nutrition and things on the web to support you.
What I would encourage people who are newly diagnosed or who've been struggling with having type 2 diabetes for a while is really sit down with yourself, figure out what you eat, maybe take a food log, and identify what you're eating, and really ask yourself, why are you eating these things? Because a lot of times we live in an information age, and people have an abundance of information, and a lot of times we aren't doing the simplest thing that we know how to do. And so part of that is doing that. It's going to require a mental fortitude in order to start doing those things. In addition to that, your community is going to be everything. So you have to make an effort to surround yourself with people who are like-minded, that are trying to do the same thing that you are trying to do. That may mean putting on your earphones or whatever and listening to that person because you don't have anybody in your ecosystem. That may mean listening to, this talk on repeat, on YouTube, or it may mean finding a good book that's going to encourage you on your journey until you actually get physical people in your system. Another thing that I would say is get a coach, because sometimes when people get that new diagnosis, unfortunately, they aren't going to get this information from their primary care doctor or their nurse practitioner, whoever is providing that primary care for them. And so they may need a nutrition coach. Invest in yourself. I was a big person I was a DIY person. And that's because I can do a lot. I have a high capability, but I didn't have the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. There was a lot of things that I just thought that I knew because I had gone to podiatry school, spent my life has been surrounded by the medical field, and I've done research and just been all over the place in terms of understanding health and wellness. That's what I thought. So getting a coach, investing in someone who can help you along the way, who can help you understand new things, is going to be essential for a lot of people. And so I would highly suggest, getting a coach, changing your environment and what you're listening to, asking yourself the pertinent questions. Why aren't you doing what you already know you need to be doing? And it's going to take some mental fortitude, some deep diving. But if you're ready to do better, you can do the work. It's just going to be work. Initially, it's going to take some time to get to where you want to be, but it's possible.
Yes. What you said was key. It really resonated with me. Investing in yourself, starting with that desire to make a change, and then just really investing the time and energy into yourself. That self-love is going to be key during that time to make the
Mm-hmm.
transition. And
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Green, have you noticed? So what I'd like to add is it's not all downhill when you make a transition. Sometimes you might notice that you feel better, that you look better, that you feel more joyful. It might take days to get to that point. It may feel painful in the beginning, but if you're able to get through that initial phase or time frame that it takes your body to adjust and adapt to new things, then there could be a lot of joy on the other side of that. One reason why I decided to stay on a plant-based diet is because I felt like I had more energy and my digestion was better. And so I think it's key for people to listen to their bodies. What do you think, Dr. Green?
Absolutely. I think it's key for people to listen to your bodies. One of the things that we talked about last time, though, is a lot of times what we're hearing from our bodies is not a true indication of what's going on. And that's because, or how can I say this? What we think we know about our bodies and our health is not always accurate. So for example, I've had patients, just this past week, I had a patient say to me, oh, as long as I go and have a bowel movement every 4 days, I know I'm okay. What? No, but so yes, listen to your body. But if you're listening, that's why you need a coach. Listening to your body, and if it's telling you that and you think that's okay, that's a problem. So I will say that. But switching to a plant-based diet, for me, it was definitely about feeling better. This didn't happen. This version of myself didn't happen in a year. This has been like a 20-year process. There were phases where I was a vegetarian, and then I went back to, eating meat. And, or I lived out of, the city and away from family members, and I would eat one way. And then when I came home to family members, I was back to eating bacon and ribs and egg and all of that every single day. But having that transition did allow me to see the benefits of how I felt when I went plant-based. So for somebody who's trying to go plant-based, you have to understand that your body is going to go through a period of trying to figure out like what's going on. You're going to go through a detox period. For some people, that may mean some people's faces break out. Some people have talked about hair loss. There are going to be some things that happen. Sometimes people get GI upset initially because they're not used to consuming the amount of fiber. Like, you have to work your way up to consuming the necessary fiber in your diet. So for some people, they, might try to consume too much. And so your body is going to go through a period of change, and you're going to have to learn how to manage that change. Consuming water is going to be huge in terms of helping your body to detox and remove all the toxins that you've been feeding it for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. You're going to have to drink a lot of water in order for that process to take place. But give yourself time. Have grace with yourself. If you said, if today you say, I'm going to start and I'm going to go whole foods plant-based, and then Thanksgiving comes and you have a piece of turkey or you have something that you're not supposed to have, don't beat yourself up about it. It's a daily process. Start back over, have grace, be kind to yourself, and be thankful for another opportunity to do it again. But I really think, I think everybody should give themselves a chance to see what it's like to be whole foods plant-based for like a month. And I'm like, I guarantee you, the way you feel, you won't want to go back. Like, the energy that you have, the mental clarity that you will have, it'll be a no-brainer.
Yes. And it makes sense too. It would behoove people to look at a coach, because that way they know during that 30-day period that they are doing things to support themselves. And if they have challenges, they can ask, is this normal? Or what do you recommend there? So that is great advice. One of the other benefits that we've discussed in the past is fiber. Can you talk a little bit about fiber on a plant-based nutritional diet, and also fiber to support people with diabetes?
Yes. So fiber is wonderful. It's like, 97% of us consume way too much protein, and 97% of the US population does not consume enough fiber. And fiber is a deficiency that is just not talked about. But the impact of adding fiber to your diet is huge, and it can prevent colon cancer. Colon cancer is on the rise, especially in the African American community. Heart disease, all these lifestyle diseases, consumption of fiber will help them. And particularly for somebody with type 2 diabetes, there was a study, I think the doctor might have been named Reynolds, I'm not exactly sure, but they looked at lentils. I think it might have been called the lentil fact or something, but consumption of like lentils in the morning would increase your insulin sensitivity, meaning that if you ate lentils for breakfast, for example, your blood sugar would be lower as compared to someone who didn't, and had their diet was the same calorie rich diet. So you had the same amount of calories, for example, in lentils. The person who ate lentils would have a lower blood sugar. Then at lunchtime, if they both had a banana, that person who ate the lentils for breakfast would still have a lower blood sugar. So the fiber in the lentils helps to lower blood sugar and increase your insulin sensitivity throughout the day. That's huge. That's a huge, huge, huge benefit. In addition to that, our gut loves fiber. You know, there's different types of fiber. There's soluble, there's insoluble fiber. And fiber is in all the fruits and vegetables. So from my understanding, there are over like 300,000 edible plants out there. And most of us just eat spinach, maybe greens. And some people, you know, don't even eat those things. But there's over 300,000. All those different plants have a different makeup of fiber in them. We have bacteria in our gut that love fiber and love to, I say, eat it. When our gut bacteria eats this fiber, it produces all of the things that are necessary to fight cancer, to have longevity, to just to feel better, to have mental clarity in our brain, to decrease risk of dementia. So that's wonderful. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you in the past, but I always tell people when I was growing up, for me, fiber was prunes. Like if I wanted to have fiber, my go-to was prunes, because I didn't understand that fiber is in everything that grows off of a tree and comes out of the ground. And you can think of fiber as the like the skeleton, the thing that holds all of the phytonutrients, all of the good beneficial things in plants and in fruit. Fiber holds those things together. So fiber is like the glue that kind of brings all those things together and holds them together. So when we ingest them, we're getting all of the nutrients, and then the fiber gets down into our gut, and those gut bacteria break up that fiber, and then we're producing even more beneficial effect. So the recommended amount of fiber that people should be consuming is about 30 grams of fiber every day, single day. And as you mentioned, Leema, there are some communities that have been whole foods, plant-based for years. And so their consumption of fiber is like 70 grams a day. Like they consume a lot of fiber. But like I said, you have to work your way up to that. You kind of think of your gut bacteria as they have to build that muscle up to be able to consume that amount of fiber. Because we don't. You think of the standard meal, you have your hamburger, your French fries, and your hamburger and your French fries, or macaroni and cheese. Those things don't contain any fiber. If you might have one slice of tomato and some lettuce on there, but those things, at minimum, you might be getting 2 grams of fiber on a daily basis. And that is just not enough to sustain a healthy lifestyle, a lifestyle that can decrease heart disease and certain cancers. So
how does transitioning to a plant-based nutrition diet, how does that support people in reducing processed foods, or what is your suggestion on that?
Absolutely. I mean, it can, so that's important to make the distinction. Whole foods plant-based is not the same as a vegan diet. So a whole foods plant-based diet is an elevated type level of a vegan diet. So you can consume a vegan diet and you can stay in the center aisles of the grocery store and still consume a lot of processed food. Whereas a whole foods plant-based vegan diet, you're mostly shopping on the perimeter of the store because everything that you're going to be buying is going to be fresh. And it is going to require you to make your smoothies or chop up your greens or your mushrooms or your onions and cook your food from scratch. So really, I encourage people to try something new. A lot of times people aren't even aware of how to, for example, eat a pomegranate. I was with some friends over the weekend in Alabama, and when I travel, I am very intentional about what I eat. So I may have to go to the grocery store. Anyway, I got a pomegranate and I left it at her house. And she's like, how do you eat this? And I'm like, oh, I eat the whole thing, the seed and everything, right? There's fiber in that as well. And she's like, I don't know. I said, well, try it out. You might like it. And I get a text message from her later, and she's like, oh, well, my son, he really enjoyed it. So she didn't even try it. But people are afraid to try different things. And so they may pass it off to someone else. And so when you are trying to switch to a whole foods plant-based diet, you have to try new things. And so maybe a rule is try one new thing a week. Before I became plant-based, I didn't eat beets. Now I love them. But as you change your eating habits, your taste buds change. So our taste buds will regenerate every 14 days. They're like our skin. So as we continue to remove things from our diet, how we taste food and what's good to us and what's too sweet or too salty, that will change over a period of time. And in order to facilitate that process, try something new. It may be making something a different way. So instead of, roasting your beets, maybe slicing them thin and eating them raw. So trying something new. So I would say have something new every week from the perimeter of the grocery store.
Yes, that's powerful. It just made me think of life is so abundant, just as there are so many processed foods, are an abundance of fruits and vegetables that you can eat to replace the unhealthy foods and over time build new habits.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to support you and with mindfulness and stress reduction to make the transition. Dr. Green, can you tell people a little bit more about your practice and how they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. But before you go, you mentioned mindfulness and just a
Yes.
strategy. I just will have to say, in the process of becoming, right? Because this is a new person that you might be trying to create. Meditation is essential. Being able to dream and visualize your new body, your new way of living is essential. You need to take the time out to do that. Sit for 5 minutes and just visualize what this person looks like with this new lifestyle. So I had to say that.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can reach me at dr.janellegreen@gmail.com. My website, www.drjanellegren.com. And I'm looking forward to living in a community where everybody at least has this information so that they can be conscious and make the choice, because there are so many people that just aren't even aware of what's available in terms of nutrition and the benefits of it for our everyday lives and how it can boost our mood and our energy and our mental capabilities. They aren't even aware that that's a possibility. So I want us to have a community of people all over the country that know this information.
That's wonderful. Can you tell me like a couple of success stories on the on this pathway?
Yeah, so there are success stories. So I had a patient, a client that was really struggling with numbness, neuropathy. So I work with a lot of people that have neuropathy. And the reversal is so quick when you commit to changing your lifestyle and adopting a whole food plant-based diet. Her sensation came back within 2 weeks. She stopped having pins and needles, burning sensations, and that's just like, it's a regular thing that happens with my clients. And so it is possible, and once you know that you can live a life free of diabetic peripheral neuropathy, that's motivating. And so that motivated her to continue to do that and pursue that. And she's not completely whole foods plant-based, but that's trickled down into her grandchildren. So she encourages them to eat a whole foods plant-based diet. And so it's affecting her communities. And those are the type of stories that I love to hear the most.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah, I've had patients, one of my patients who, this is, good and bad, but this was a guy, and he is still struggling with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, but I've been coaching him along the way, but he's been sharing this information with his sister, and his sister has adopted what I've been trying to get him to adopt, and she was able to put her cancer into remission through a whole foods plant-based diet. And she did receive radiation treatment, but all of the side effects that normally occur with it, she didn't have any of those side effects having a whole foods plant-based diet. So we're still working on him, but people are getting relief there. And that's not even my area, is not cancer, but there's so much abundance in this lifestyle and in this diet.
Yes, holistic health, mind,
Mhm.
body, and soul. That's really impactful. What about gout? I know this can help with gout too, and that's another thing you see, right?
Absolutely. So people classify gout as it's when you have pain and redness in your big toe joint. That's like the most classic symptoms. But gouty arthritis is an arthritis in the big toe joint, but it can occur in any other joints in the body. And so it can occur in the elbows. When people develop gout, not only do they get the pain, but they also get gouty tophi. So these crystals build up, and you might get a big nodule in your big toe joint. That's not a bunion, but you might get a big nodule there, or you might get it in your elbow. I've seen it in people's ears, in the back of their heels. And so that's from the consumption of too much uric acid in the body. However, that amount of uric acid comes from consumption of animal products. So red meats, protein, too much animal protein, even shellfish, beers. And gout was originally thought of as a rich man's disease. That's
Right.
what they called it, because those were the only people that could really afford to have a diet high in meats, like the choice cut meats, or and have red wine and beers. Were the people that had money. The people that lived like a peasant lifestyle could only eat grains and plants and fruits and vegetables. But along with that, I guess rich kind of lifestyle came these problems, the development of gout. And so that's what gout is. And when someone comes into my office and they have symptoms, I'll send them to get lab work. And so their lab work may say they have uric acid levels in their body over 6.7, sometimes as high as 9. And so we know they have an elevated amount of uric acid in their body. So that's what gout is. But the thing about that is there are some studies that have talked about uric acid as being a marker as overall kind of metabolic diseases. So even uric acid levels over, I think it's 5.7, I have to check that, have been linked to certain increased development of lifestyle diseases. Even when they looked at people that had severe sickness from COVID, those people had elevated uric acid levels. So they may not have had gout, but their uric acid levels were over 6. And that's the majority of our population. And that's because the majority of our population does consume animal products. So while we may be walking around and we don't have the symptoms of gout, we do have elevated uric acid levels in our body. And that elevated uric acid has been linked to increased metabolic and lifestyle diseases. So don't wait for gout to try to get rid of the uric acid from your body. Try to do it earlier.
Yes. So, in closing, people want to know about foot care.
Okay.
What do we do for our everyday foot care? What do you recommend?
So for everyday foot care, simple things. Make sure you change your socks. You'd be surprised at how many people just don't do that. Change your socks every single day. If you can alternate shoes, change your shoes, allow your shoes to air out. You can spray the inside with Lysol, or if the inside, the little insert in your shoe comes out, that's washable. If your shoe is washable, especially if it's like an athletic or running shoe, wash it. Okay, so just simple things, basic hygiene. Wash your feet regularly. Those are just simple, basic things that are beneficial. A lot of times people are concerned about getting fungus. Now, I will say that studies have shown that fungus is a dominant characteristic. And so if someone in a household has some DNA in their system, they might be more likely to develop fungus. It doesn't mean that they'll get it, but they might be more likely to get fungus. If you are at risk of getting fungus, or you live with somebody that has foot fungus, when you wash your shoes and socks, especially your socks, wash them in hot water. Or even before you wash them, you might want to soak them in like a apple cider vinegar or something to kind of get rid of the spores, because fungal spores have been known to survive in the normal warm water that we might wash our clothes in. So if you are washing your socks in that warm water, and that person has fungus on their feet, it's clearly visible, that fungus is going to survive in warm water. So those socks need to be washed in hot water, or soaked in like a apple cider vinegar or a little bit of bleach in water or something before you wash them. So yeah, but a lot of it is just hygiene. So that's the base, on the very basic level. Yeah.
Okay.
And letting your feet air out. Sunlight is really good. Letting your feet air out. Don't let them get too sweaty. And if you're working out, if your feet sweat, change your socks 2 or 3 times a day. There's no shame in that. So
live a life of purpose with gratitude, visualization, and community. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.